I'm Julie Mason. It's great to welcome back to the show Congresswoman Cammack. She's a Republican of Florida, representing the state's 3rd Congressional District. She serves as the lonely Florida Republican on House Ag. She's also on House Homeland Security and is lead Republican on the Subcommittee for Emergency Preparedness, Response, and Recovery. She's also the youngest Republican woman in Congress. She tweets at Rep. Cat Cammack. Congresswoman, good morning.
Good morning. That was impressive how you got through all that.
It was a lot. It's a lot of credentials, but it's okay. It feels like, I don't know, maybe because the House is in recess right now, but it feels a little bit like the temperature is coming down on those 13 Republicans who voted for infrastructure. Is that your sense?
You know, I hear pretty much everywhere I go about the infrastructure bill, and while I didn't think that it was worthy of my vote, and my constituents surely, I believe, should be on the hook for it, I know my colleagues had a different view, and I think they saw something within the bill that was worthy of their vote. And I trust me, I hear about it from not just my constituents, but from folks all over the country. But regardless, it doesn't, at this point, the bill has passed. It's going to go to Biden's desk, and we have to live with that now. And it becomes our job in the next Congress to undo some of the damaging programs that have been now implemented because of it. But our real focus should be reconciliation, this very, very dangerous Build Back Better bill that will, according to Nancy Pelosi, be on the floor next week. And that's where the real danger is. And I think that's where you'll find Republicans will be one team, one mission, and we have to be in order to defeat it.
Joe Manchin is already making sounds like, inflation is too terrible right now. Like maybe we shouldn't go ahead with this. This is terrible. He might give cover to some other moderate Democrats to put the brakes on that spending as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you are anywhere in America today and you fill up your gas tank, you're feeling the Biden effect. If you go to the grocery store, you're paying at least 7% more for your groceries today than you were just 10 months ago. That's the Biden effect. And so I think everyday Americans who are really feeling the squeeze of these terrible Biden policies, they are stepping back saying, I maybe voted for that person, and this isn't what I voted for. And this is time maybe for us to regroup and take a step back. I think Manchin's right on that. And we've got, of course, Republicans who are united in pushing back against this reconciliation bill. But then you have Sinema and you have Manchin who have long for this entire time said that they have certain conditions. And when you look at what's in this bill, it's truly egregious. I mean, it is so beyond the pale of what our founding fathers originally intended, and it would fundamentally transform America for the worst. So we need to make sure that every single American knows what's in this bill, which we know Nancy Pelosi is trying very hard to hide it, going so far as just last week, including the legislative text to change the procedure a little bit, the rule on the bill. I know I'm getting in the weeds a little bit here, but it's important because when they change the rule, they made it so that there's no first, second, or third reading of the bill, meaning that we cannot request, and I had every intention of marching down on the House floor and requesting a reading of the bill. Because in my mind, well, heck, if we're going to vote on 2,100 plus pages, we need to know what's in it. Call me crazy.
But having asked for that, you would then have to sit through it. You can't ask for that and then go leave.
You know what? It's worth it. I'm telling you, this bill is gonna really hurt America. And so I can sit for many, 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 many hours. Hell, I'll help them read the bill out loud if that's what it takes. But I found out that, that's not going to be possible because Nancy Pelosi changed the way that the bill is being brought to the floor. And that's a real shame. When you have to purposely go out of your way to deny the reading of the bill and you change it in the middle of the night, you know that there's bad stuff in there.
You've signed on to an effort to stop the IRS from meddling with Americans' bank accounts. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, and that's another thing that is in this reconciliation, quote unquote, aka Build Back Better. I call it Build Back Broke, but One of the things, egregious things that's in it is $80 billion with a B, $80 billion that goes to double the number of IRS agents. And interesting thing that they're doing here, they're doubling the number of IRS agents, not to help with the 500,000 plus backlog of tax returns that still need to be processed. They are being hired to spy on everyday Americans' bank accounts who have a $10,000 aggregate worth of transactions in a calendar year. And you're wondering, well, why the heck is that? In the administration's own words, it's to avoid, it's to help catch tax cheats. Well, I'm sorry, but you're going after mom and pop families that, I mean, no one, of course, wants to see people cheat on their taxes. Of course not. But when you have set the threshold at $10,000 in a calendar year, I mean, if you are living a basic, very, very basic life, if you have rent, if you have a car payment, if you do the very, very bare minimum of surviving in America, you're going to get wrapped up in this awful, awful scheme that the government has put forward. And, you know, I think that's just really, really dangerous and very short-sighted. And it looks like they're scrambling for any way to find ways to pay for this awful bill. Because unlike the White House says, it's not paid for. Our grandkids and our great-grandkids will be paying for this bill. And I think it's really dangerous, and it sets a precedent of spending, which we know this is the most expensive bill in American history, but it sets a very dangerous precedent of government interference in our everyday lives. They need to stay out of our bank accounts. It's none of their dang business.
Dang.
Clean it up. It's 7:30 in the morning.
Sure.
Oh,
yeah.
Clean it up a little bit.
Definitely. So putting aside Build Back Better for a moment, there's still, and I'm wondering if you're hearing any noises about shutting down the government at the end of the year, people talking about that at all, and also the debt limit issue still to be dealt with.
Yeah, you know, and that's the frustrating part is this kick the can down the road mentality that is persistent with big government. And at this point, I wouldn't mind shutting the government down if it meant delaying any more passage of this garbage. And what had happened a few months ago was Nancy Pelosi had tried to kick the debt ceiling debate to December of 22 because she knew, and her whole team and everyone in Washington, it's the worst kept secret, Republicans are taking the House back. And so she wanted to tee up a situation for Republicans that the minute that we took the House back, we would have a very contentious vote on increasing the debt ceiling and avoiding a government shutdown. I mean, that's her playbook. She wants to put Republicans in the worst positions possible. And her own party, and thanks to the American people who basically called until they shut the Capitol switchboard down, they were able to make it so that there was only a short-term increase. And so now we're looking at beginning of December, maybe mid-December, for another showdown where we're going to be voting on another debt ceiling increase, which I have some personal feelings about the debt ceiling increase. I'm not a fan. I think government spends way too much. We got to get really serious about cutting, not spending more. And we are in a position where the government of the United States will continue to make good on their obligations. We will make our payments. We will not default. And we have an opportunity before it gets to the point where we're at that level where we can make the necessary cuts. We're adults in the room. We've got to do this. And as far as a government shutdown, I think it's more political than anything. Nancy Pelosi is infamous. We're putting us in a position where you're up against the holidays. They start the fear-mongering tactics of, oh, checks aren't going to go out. You know, you're gonna hold back grandma's check. That's a lie. Mandatory spending is on autopilot. Those checks go with or without the government being on. Those are autopilot, and she's going to make it a political move, a political issue, by saying that we need to spend all this money right before the holidays, or else we're going to shut the government down, and she's going to scare the bejeebus out of everybody. And I think that's just wrong. The fear-mongering has got to stop. And hopefully, and I have great confidence that when Republicans take the House back, we won't play these games. we're going to be hard charging. We will lead by example. We're going to get the House in order because that's what we're sent to Washington to do. If we ran any one of our personal businesses or households, for that matter, like the way that Nancy Pelosi runs the House of Representatives, we would have been bankrupt, evicted, foreclosed on the street, under a bridge, living out of a cardboard box. And it makes no sense how she runs things. So we've got to get our house in order, and we certainly will, because that's what the American people deserve.
Sounds like an amazing end to the year. Just the way to close it out.
Yes, I know. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Congresswoman Kat Cammack is a Republican of Florida. Find her on Twitter at @RepCatCammack. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, thank you so much, and happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans who have served our great country, and thank you.
Absolutely.